Hey guys, so I'm back again today, and I'm going to talk today about the Mandalorian and just my thoughts on it and what I think was good, what I think was bad, and so on. There will probably be quite a few spoilers in this. So anyway, um, so I've never really been a huge fan of Star Wars. I preferred Star Trek or Stargate over Star Wars. I actually liked I actually didn't mind the episodes 1, 2, and 3. I know a lot of people don't like those ones, um, but obviously they're still way better than the 7, 8, and 9. But um, Mandalorian from the trailer itself looked different, and I think that you can uh, I'm normally a good judge of these things based on just looking at trailers, or at least I'd like to think I am. And looking at when I first saw the trailer several months ago, there was something different about the tone and the production of this than a normal sort of spin-off sort of series for any of these kind of shows or uh, movie universes. And so, having seen all the episodes, I have to say I really, really enjoyed Mandalorian. I think the pacing was good, the writing was good, the dialogue was good. The They used graphics, I mean the computer graphics and so on, obviously good, but sometimes you could kind of tell where there's like a green screen background on some of the scenes, but otherwise I think it was good. And what I really liked about the show was, so anyone, even not like non sort of science fiction fans, can watch this and enjoy it. And it really did remind me, as I was watching these episodes, it really reminded me of the the classic sort of science fiction shows that I've seen mostly as reruns. So it reminded me not so much of Star Wars, even the original three Star Wars films. It reminded me really of the older, or well, newer than Star Wars, but older um, Star Trek series and even the Stargate series, like Next Generation or um, Deep Space Nine from Star Trek, or like Stargate SG-1. Um, it and also even older ones, like the original version of Battlestar Galactica. In terms of the tone, there's the way it was. This show was, the pacing um, and that's something that I find very enjoyable because it's a show that this show you can just sit and watch it. There's enough drama, there's enough tension, there's excitement, there's action. Um, you know, everything's there, but it's not stressful to watch. And I think a lot of these new, more recent science fiction shows are stressful. Um, and I still watch them because I like the science fiction genre, and that's what I'd like to watch. And if there's a decent story, nothing silly, but like anything kind of decent, I mean, I like to still watch them, but they are stressful. So in ways, you can just sit and relax and watch an episode of Deep Space Nine or Star Trek Voyager. You cannot just sit and relax and watch an episode of The Expanse or the 2000 I think it was 2003 Battlestar Galactica, um, or um, to some extent Star Trek Picard. Those are not so much Picard, but the other ones I mentioned are definitely they're really really stressful to watch. Like they're too tense, and you know it's interesting to watch. Kind of if you're gonna I mean you can still see them, and if you want some of this like tension sort of shows, intense kind of program, um, uh, you know another like a version of Taken, the movies, something like that. It's a more tense, serious sort of show. That's fine, and I do enjoy it for sure. But it was really, really refreshing and really, you know, nice just to be able to watch this science fiction show and have the most recent up to date graphics and all that kind of stuff, and have um, really believable characters and the actors were all really good. Um, and the writing was good as well. Um, then with the story itself, as if you've seen it, you'll probably know. So there's like this the Mandalorian, one of the last few of his people. It's a creed, not a specific race. Um, they he's this guy's going around looking for his uh, well, for bounties basically to make a living. Though, and the most prized thing is their special kind of um, metal, the steel and stuff. And then he doesn't care about getting involved with bad guys normally. Just lives for day to day or whatever, try to help his clan or whatever. And then he comes across this specific, this particular package, and then which turns out to be Baby Yoda, and we have um, the everything that ensues from there, and then his kind of morality kicking in and deciding to actually break the terms and you know take this back and so on. Even though it's going to come at a great cost to him, he decides to save the Baby Yoda. So and even if you look at it, like if you look at the mythology and stuff that they put in about the Mandalorians, the steel and the helmets and the all that stuff, they did it in a way that was kind of intriguing and interesting and believable. And it wasn't like if you've ever seen the show from the kind of the spin-off from the Battlestar Galactica. Um, and I can't even remember what it was called right now. So Caprica, as it was called. If you saw that, then they had the whole thing about the people, one group of people who were like tattooing themselves or getting tattoos on their fingers, um, or their skin just to represent certain things, and they used to go, oh, you get ink for this reason, and for inking for to commemorate something or someone or whatever, or some loss or whatever. Um, so that seemed so contrived, and like really like they tried to make it seem very profound and some kind of cultural relic which they're continuing, and but it just seemed so like I said, contrived and just fake and forced, and it just seems so weird. So um this though, when they talked here about this helmet and like the not really revealing your face, and the looking for that steel, and like the rituals or whatever that they showed, and the getting their signet symbol thing and all that stuff. All of that was much more for me believable, like within this universe, and it seemed, you know, something that was real. And so I like the way they did those things. They were able to do it. There was a subtlety to this show that has really been lacking in a lot of science fiction that tries to that we've had to see recently. Um, so that's a huge part of it. I think that's something that I found very interesting. I like the Baby Yoda thing was done very well as well. It wasn't done in a funny way or a silly way. There was little bits of humor sometimes, little bits of little interesting things here and there that made the show, just added so much to the actual show. There were some of the standard sort of somewhat silly aspects of Star Wars. I mean, we have the stormtroopers or the ex-stormtroopers or whoever, and they're always a little bit cartoony in terms of how villainous they are and how inept they are. It would have been nicer if they just had less of the stormtroopers with the final scenes with the siege, and just make them better, like each one of them better than they were. Um, but what else could be stuff that I don't like too much about it? Not much else really. I think that so coming as more of a Star Trek fan than a Star Wars fan, this was definitely like I said, has the quality and the feel and the atmosphere of some of the classical sort of really good Star Trek kind of shows, and so I hope that it goes on for a long while. But I really hope that they do it with just short seasons. So max like 10 episodes, and with so that then the writers can do it. You know, they can make each season can have like a beginning, middle, and end, which means that if it can't continue any further for whatever reason, then at least there's some kind of conclusion at each point, you know, so then the fans can kind of continue with fan fiction, or you can just think to yourself about what else would be happening next. I think a big problem with many of these shows, especially if they're popular and they're doing well, is sort of trying to drag out the story, you know, far more than is necessary, just for the commercial purposes. And then also expanding the story too much. So, you know, when we have the Mandalorian, you know, it starts off as just one guy with, you know, trying to survive with a small clan of basically with refugees, and then he gets kind of wrapped up into this slightly big, like, well, somewhat bigger, you know, conspiracy and intrigue with this, you know, this Baby Yoda and so on. But and then he does the actions. He's still at the small scale though. You know, he does an action which he thinks is morally right, which is to save a kid and whatever, which is good. But I don't want him to. I don't want this to become like really soon, like in the next season, a huge thing where suddenly he gets a giant, you know, he joins a massive alliance and he's got a giant crew and there's all these spaceships and it becomes a massive space battle. You know, they shouldn't expand it. You know, it's nicer to have, you know, we've had all the expanded stuff. We have the Star Wars, we have all these other various like um you know, stories that have been told about the, you know, Luke Skywalker defeating the Emperor and so on. So we've had that story already in this universe. We don't need it again. So especially not so soon. So I really hope that they are able to keep the scale a bit smaller and focus more on the quality of the show, which I think is really high. And I hope they can continue to, you know, focus on that, the quality of the story, rather than going for this quantity in terms of, you know, suddenly expanding everything and seeing, and he's this guy who's like able to, I don't know, save slash change the galaxy. But anyway, I would definitely recommend this show. If I'm doing my so-called scaling thing, I'd probably give it a 5 out of 5. This season one. And I hope there's another season that's the next season is, you know, good and you know, maintains the quality. And I definitely would recommend it to anyone, even if you're not a fan of the newer Star Wars films, even if you're not a fan of Star Wars, or, you know, this kind of the more fantastical kind of science fiction shows. If you're not, even if you're not a fan of them, normally I'd still recommend you to have a look at it. It's really good to watch and very relaxing, but really good story to see. So those are my thoughts. Please leave a comment and tell me what you think. And I hope to see you in the next one. Bye, guys.